Hey all, Binks here, coming to you from the official MarvelSnap channel to talk to you about a very exciting new card, Red Wolf Fractured Frontier. This is a 2 energy 1 power card with the on reveal +1 power for each card in your hand, and the additional quick draw ability that says give your hand +1 power. There's a lot of things to be really excited about with this card. I think that it's already decently powerful with its on reveal. There's not too many 2-cost cards that really buff themselves with their on reveal, and having the additional quick draw that you can get in certain matchups but not necessarily all the time is a great added bonus that gives it a ton of extra value. I think that Red Wolf is a card that can kind of just go in any deck. It's just a very, very solid card top to bottom, like in a vacuum, but it's also going to get a lot of great synergy if you have additional cards in your hand, or if you have cards in your hand that accept buffs really well and can multiply them. The deck that I chose to feature Red Wolf Fractured Frontier, I call the Wolf Pack. It has a lot of really nice low-level tools to make sure that we're able to play Red Wolf with its quick draw ability whenever we can. It can also buff up your cards to have super powerful final turns. The deck features Agony, America Chavez, Nico Minoru, Red Wolf Fractured Frontier, Surge, Mr. Sinister, Storm, Horseman of Famine, Brood, Captain Carter, Iska the Unbeaten, Wolverine, Horseman of War, and Gwenpool. Let's start with Storm, Horseman of Famine, because she's probably the most important card in the deck, and she's going to really dictate how the deck is played. She has the objective of end 2 turns in a row with unspent energy, and the reward of give your other cards here and in your hand +2 power. It's very important while you're playing this deck to try and keep this ability on at all times, so you usually want to skip turn 1 and then only play a 1-drop on turn 2, and that will turn Storm on for the entirety of the game. The only real exception is if you do draw Red Wolf Fractured Frontier on turn 2 exactly. Playing it out to activate its quick draw ability is sometimes going to be worth it, not always. So just keep that in mind. Pretty much every other time you want to skip turn 1 and play a 1-drop on turn 2. Agony is our first 1-drop on the list. She's really great because she's nice to just kind of hold in your hand, and she's going to want to get attached to either Wolverine, Horseman of War to activate its ability, or onto Captain Carter to apply those buffs to the back row. America Chavez is a great 1-drop buff card. Giving just about any card in our deck +3 power is great, especially with so many cards that we have that are going to be able to multiply those buffs. Next up, we have Nico Minoru. She has a ton of different spells that can be helpful here. Turning a card that's not super powerful into a demon can be great to just get more power onto the board. Applying a +2 buff to many of our cards can be fantastic. Sometimes you can copy a card, especially if it's already accepted several important buffs. And if you use the draw spell and you draw Red Wolf Fractured Frontier, you can activate its quick draw ability next turn. And of course, we have Red Wolf Fractured Frontier himself, which is not only going to get a buff from this deck by wanting to hold on to cards to activate Storm, making its on reveal more powerful, but also utilizing that quick draw ability to get additional buffs into our hand and let this card kind of scale out of control. Surge is going to be in here to not only help out our energy curve and make some cards cheaper, but also applying a small buff to the cards that we draw. Surge is a little bit weird in this deck because you don't really want to play it on turn 2 almost ever. You're usually going to be playing it out on turn 3 if you don't draw Storm, Horseman of Famine, or even on turn 4 if you do draw her. But any chance we can get to get additional buffs and smooth out our energy curve is going to be great, and Surge fills that role super well. The next 3 cards are going to be our buff acceptors that can really take advantage of getting cards buffed in our hand. Mr. Sinister, a 2-drop that's going to multiply that buff onto its clone. Trying to get as many buffs onto this and hold it in your hand so it continues to get buffs is really, really strong. And of course, we have Brood, which is just the bigger version of Mr. Sinister, not just getting 1 copy of those buffs and the card, but an additional copy. Really want to make sure that you're looking out for board space on the final turn. Being able to slam a giant Brood onto a lane with 3 available spots is a super great way to win out games and completely take your opponent off guard. So definitely, as you're building out your board throughout the game, make sure that on turn 6, you're going to have a spot to get a Brood at full value. Captain Carter is also an amazing card at accepting buffs. Any buffs you end up landing on Captain Carter are going to be put into the back row. So you're going to make that lane super, super powerful. It's the best way that we can attach Agony onto this. And then also look out for Wolverine Horseman of War. If you have Wolverine Horseman of War already active and you have Captain Carter in its own lane, it will always get the buff, which can be super, super beneficial. Or if you play the Wolverine Horseman of War on top of the Captain Carter lane, the ongoing power that she passes on can fulfill that objective as well. Up next, we have Iska, the Unbeaten, one of the most powerful cards in the game. She's going to give us a ton of utility in this deck. Even unbuffed, you can play her out into a lane on turn 4 and threaten as much as 24 power. But when you start incorporating buffs onto her and getting additional power there, it's going to multiply turn after turn. So usually getting this up to like 4 or 5 is really great. You can throw it into a lane, really try and go after a lane that you're already losing to get that first proc of Iska that's super, super important. And then you can fight for the other lanes with your powerful buffs on Brood and Mr. Sinister. We've already talked about Wolverine Horseman of War a couple of times, but this is, in my opinion, one of the most underrated cards in the game. This deck has a ton of ways to fulfill its objective of getting it to a 4/5, either through permanent buffs or from the ongoing power of Captain Carter. And being able to give 4 additional power, especially to some cards that can get additional buffs when those land on it, is incredibly powerful, and this card can really surprise you in how it wins games. And we have our final card buffer in Gwenpool, the 4 energy 5 power that's going to give 3 characters in your hand +2 power. It can sometimes hit like the same card multiple times, which can increase that buff exponentially and make it super, super powerful. But because we have so many great buff acceptors in this deck, anything that you're able to hit with Gwenpool is fantastic. That's the deck. Now let's jump in and show you some great highlights that I got piloting this deck. I think that it's a really great starting point for Red Wolf Fractured Frontier, but again, this card is super, super flexible. You can find tons of ways to get value out of it, so don't shy away from some spicy and interesting builds. Hope that you enjoy these highlights. Thanks out. Trevino, best of luck to you here. As always, we're going to be skipping on turn 1 to make sure that we can keep our Storm Horseman of Famine active. We do get squirrels. Squirrels are actually quite annoying for us to deal with, but I told you what, we see the Red Wolf, we play the Red Wolf. Very nice to draw that on turn 2, getting a quick buff to everything in our hands, and also getting some extra power there on the Red Wolf itself. A nice little 2/5 played down on the board. And then I think Captain Carter makes a lot of sense to get access to here. We can play it over on the right lane. And then they're already pushing for middle a little bit. Seems like a nice spot that we can land our Iska. And then that means that we can clear out our hand a little bit to set up a Gwenpool on the next turn. So let's just get the Iska down here. Getting that initial trigger, always really, really important to be able to just get it starting big so that it offers and threatens this really, really massive card against our opponent. And then what I'm thinking here is we can go with this Gwenpool over on the right. We go with this America Chavez over on the left. We don't have a great spot for Brood or Sinister, but whichever one that gets like some additional hits, we can play it into that middle lane and take advantage of it. So we do see the Mr. Sinister get the buff there. So probably makes the most sense to just lock that down middle. An opponent plays Professor X against us. How unbelievably rude. Well, we'll go ahead and get Mr. Sinister there. We'll get Nico there, and we will call it a day. Very, very nice attack on both lanes. Unless they have something crazy, I do not think that they can get over the top middle. So it looks like we're going to be taking a nice cheeky win here. Seeing that initial Red Wolf come out, super, super strong. Way to get out ahead. GG's, Trevino. GG's.
Victory.
Solano, welcome to the stream. Welcome, welcome. As always, we're going to be skipping here on turn 1 to make sure that our Storm is active. We see an X-23 coming down over on the right. Already got a nice buff. Not too many great buff acceptors, but, you know, we have the Agony, we have the Captain Carter. I can't be too upset about that. Because we have a lot of great cards that want to take a buff in the deck, I like just playing the Chavez here. Buff up, and also, again, making sure that our Horseman of Famine is online. So next turn, we're going to have 3 energy. We can either get the Captain Carter down. If we draw the Storm, obviously, we're going to want to play that. Never mind. We have way more energy than that. We have so much more energy than you would ever think. And we have a freaking Red Wolf that's active. What a beautiful time to be alive, eh? So I think that here, we definitely want to get the Red Wolf online. So that's going to be 2 of our energy. And then I think that we want to keep... our Captain Carter in hand, probably. But how are we going to get this Wolverine buffed if we take it out? So let's actually get the Captain Carter down. We can go with like Agony Captain Carter. And then we can go with a Surge and a Red Wolf. So this is going to only hit 2 cards, and the Red Wolf's going to be a little bit light there, but that's just what happens with Project Pegasus. There's not much we can do about it. We should be in a really, really good position. We'll be able to seat this Wolverine Horseman of War into the middle lane to be able to get the actual buff, because the one extra buff that we're getting from the Red Wolf isn't going to be enough to get this Wolverine online. But we can play it onto the Captain Carter lane and get a bunch of power elsewhere. Man, this Captain Carter is super, super strong. Little bit of buffs into the hand, making that Nico just a tad stronger, making that Wolverine just a tad stronger. No problems there whatsoever. I kind of like the idea of actually, like, maybe popping a card here. So going like Nico and then Mr. Sinister left. Just to get access to the rest of our deck. I think that this would be really nice. We also probably have a Killmonger coming down at some point. So we're not going to be able to like realistically rely on things like this Nico and this America Chavez sticking around. So we want to try and find some other powerful cards that we can land there too. Speaking of that, we see a very strong Iska draw. I personally am looking at how we finish out this game. I think that we just play the Wolverine this turn. We can play the Storm on the final turn, no problem there. We do see a Killmonger come down. We are going to lose this buff over on the right lane, which isn't ideal, but we can maybe find some ways to push some power there and other ways to fight for it to make sure that we're not running into too much trouble over there on the right. But very, very nicely done there, getting a big boost of power across all of those lanes. And then I think we just go with like an Iska and a Storm both over on the left to get some massive power push. And yeah, opponent wisely retreats there. We were in a really, really good position. GG's. Grinder, welcome, welcome. As always, we're going to pass here on turn 1 to make sure that our Storm is set up. And again, we have that Red Wolf in hand. It feels a little bit bad to see it in hand, but you're just going to kind of have to tank it. It's always going to feel bad with like things like Quickdraw where you're not actually hitting exactly what you want. You just you just have to deal with it. It's not that big of a deal. We have another Destroy deck here. We have Deadpool coming down over on the right. An immediate Carnage to pop it and start getting that train going. And now we are kind of free to do whatever we want because we do have our Storm set up for the future. Now, what do we want to do here next turn? We don't have any great draws. We see the Agony come down, which can be really nice, getting an Agony with that pop. And then let's just go ahead and get a Red Wolf rocking over on the left. And as a matter of fact, with this exclamation point, it's going to change a location. Let's go ahead and change the Mindscape, I think. And then we're going to have a great spot where we can land either Wolverine or Captain Carter to just get a whole bunch of points going over on the right, which can then get moved to another lane. Great to see this Killmonger come down now. We don't want to be dealing with that too much later. And Red Wolf, sometimes it's just a 2/4, and sometimes that is just completely okay with this card. A few different things we can look to do here. With 4 energy, we probably want to use all 4, I would imagine. I like getting this Iska just set up middle. If they push anything else middle, we are going to get that initial Iska pop, which we're looking for. And it does look like we're going to get the initial Iska pop. Now this makes it really threatening. If they try and move anything into the middle, we should be in a really, really good position to fight back against that. And this is a little bit unfortunate here, huh? We have 2 4-drops and 2 3-drops with 5 energy. We're not going to be super efficient here. I think that we just go with the Wolverine over on the right, and then we just utilize this pop of the Wolverine to get additional power on both our Red Wolf and our Iska to be able to fight against our opponent's lanes. Having an Iska at 10 power is super, super threatening. It means that it's essentially threatening being an Infinite, a 20 power card, if they ever get over the range of what they're trying to get. And now, unfortunately, it isn't going to double before we get that extra energy, but again, a 10 power Iska is super, super hard for our opponent to deal with. Just really, really going to be annoying for them. And then a few different things that we can opt to do here. I think that it kind of makes sense to... Like Captain Carter feels like a really good card here, right? So it's going to feel weird to not want to play Captain Carter. I think that we just move this Wolverine here and go Captain Carter, Brood both right, getting a massive power push on the right. Already being super ahead. They have to have 34 power to be able to contest with this middle lane. And then if they win the left lane, that's fine. We can just accept that. But pushing a lot of power in the right and in the middle should be enough to give us the W here. So we get the Captain Carter down. Both of these are going to be getting some extra power. So we're getting a massive, massive hit. And I actually forgot that the Brood things get an extra hit on top of here, which is kind of crazy. Okay, they clear out the Iska, so they are actually able to win middle, but they invested so much middle that they couldn't fight for that. Red Wolf on the left, holding it down. GG's to you, Grinder. GG's.